Alright you guys, what's happening? Welcome back to another 10-year FIFA sim where we've placed the 12 Spfl Premiership teams into the English football structure to see how they would get on. We did it before and we stuck all 12 into League 2 in England, and basically what happened was Rangers and Celtic raced up to the Championship and kind of got stuck there. Celtic got relegated back to League 1 on two different occasions actually, but they finished year 10 by going up to the Championship. Rangers in their first season in the Championship made the playoffs and didn't get any further. But the good thing was that all 12 teams at one point were at least promoted to League 1. This time, I thought we would see what happened if we gave the Scottish teams a wee exposure to the mental money in English football. So we have stuck all 12 in the Premier League, and what we have done is we have moved teams down depending on club value. So we've taken the 12 least valuable teams from the Premier League, stuck them down in the Championship, and then worked from there with every league down to League 2. So your Premier League looks like this. We've got Aberdeen, Arsenal, Celtic, Chelsea, Dundee, Everton, Hamilton, Hearts, Hibs, Kilmarnock, Livy, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Motherwell, Rangers, St Johnstone, St Mirren, Spurs and West Ham. West Ham and Everton were the two most valuable teams outside the stereotypical top six of English football. We'll have a look at the other divisions just to give you an idea who's where. So in the Championship down there are Bournemouth, Burnley, Palace, Cardiff, Leicester City, Newcastle United, you get the idea. League 1, we've got a few reasonably big clubs. Birmingham City are there, Brentford are down, Ipswich are there, Millwall, Preston, QPR. I took control of Wigan Athletic because my idea was to take a championship team, so in season 2, the 3 Scottish teams that got relegated, if one of them ends up in the playoffs, we'll get an idea of what happened. Forgetting that I'd sent Wigan back to League 1, so that was a bit of a misstep on my part, but hopefully Wigan will get promoted this year and it won't matter. And finally League 2, some of the teams that have been sent down include Wimbledon, Coventry City are back down, Luton Town. So yeah, you get the idea. This is the setup at the moment, so we're going to sim forward to the end of year 1 and see who has been relegated from the Premier League. Alright, so here we are at the end of season 1. You will see from the screen that the top 8 wasn't all just English teams. Celtic got into 8th place. I haven't scrolled down yet, so we'll see what happened at the bottom. So 8th were Celtic, 9th were West Ham. So the bottom 11 were all Premier League teams from Scotland. So we've got Rangers in 10th, Hibs in 11th, Aberdeen in 12th, Hearts in 13th, Motherwell 14th, Kilmarnock 15th, Dundee 16th, St Johnstone 17th. So the 3 relegated teams were Hamilton, relegated on goal difference, Livingston, relegated by 6 points, and St Mirren as well, relegated by 6 points. In the Carabao Cup we had a few Scottish teams get into the 4th round. Celtic got beat by West Brom, Hearts got beat at home by Everton, and Motherwell got scudded by West Ham. We'll have a look at the FA Cup. And in the FA Cup, Celtic got to the 5th round, losing 3-0 at Chelsea, and that was your lot for the Scottish team. So hopefully we'll see a wee bit more cup success later on as the Premier League teams from Scotland get a wee bit more of that crazy money. That'll wrap up year 1. Let's move on to the end of year number 2. Right, here we are at the end of year 2. No Scottish teams in the top 8. Celtic finished 9th, so that's a start. Leicester 10th, Wolves 11th, Newcastle 12th. This is looking pretty poor. I think we're guaranteed now to have 3 Scottish teams relegated again. Rangers 13th, Aberdeen 14th, Hibs 15th, Hearts 16th, Motherwell 17th. And the 3 relegated teams were Kilmarnock on 28 points, St Johnstone on 14, that's a disgrace. And it gets worse, Dundee on 13, so that is bad times. We'll have a look at the Championship to see how the 3 Scottish teams did there. Not good. So St Mirren, Hamilton and Livingston have all been relegated 2 years in a row. That is bad times. In the Carabao Cup, we got 2 Scottish teams to the quarterfinals. Aberdeen losing on penalties to Derby County and Motherwell losing 3-1 at Leicester City. So decent performance there from 2 of the clubs. We'll check the FA Cup. And in the FA Cup, Motherwell, again, a great cup season for them, getting all the way to the quarterfinals and losing on penalties at Stamford Bridge to Chelsea. So we're getting some decent cup success, but unfortunately, Hamilton, St Mirren and Livingston are letting the side down. We'll see how they get on in League 1. Hopefully the 6 Scottish teams who have stayed in the Premier League now that they're getting their 3rd year of that money will hopefully be able to build something and maybe even stick around, or at least if they go down, they might be competitive in the Championship. We'll check on the 3 who were relegated as well at the end of year 3. Right, we're at the end of year 3. Let's see if any of the English teams have been relegated from the Premier League. So the highest placed Scottish team is Celtic in 12th. This is already looking a bit of a problem. Aberdeen are 16th, Rangers are 17th, Hibs have been relegated on 28 points, Motherwell on 27, and bottom of the table are Hearts. So only Celtic, Aberdeen and Rangers are going to be in the Premier League next season. In the Championship, same story. Dundee, St Johnstone and Kilmarnock have been relegated to League One, although this time at least Dundee were only relegated on goal difference, so I guess we're getting somewhere. They were only relegated by 3 goals as well, so it's disappointing, but we will check League One and hopefully we'll get some better news. Shite news from League One. Livingston did stay up, but St Mirren and Hamilton have been relegated for the 3rd consecutive year. Look at this. Aberdeen have won the Carabao Cup, beating Chelsea 1-0 in the final. Fantastic, boys. Great effort. We have a Scottish winner of a trophy. Fantastic. We'll check Aberdeen's run quickly. So they started off in round 2 and won on penalties against Nottingham Forest. Round 3 they won again on penalties, this time at Reading. Round 4 they beat Sheffield Wednesday again on penalties. Quarterfinals, they didn't bother with penalties. They won 2-1 against Millwall at home. And in the semi-finals, a 2-1 aggregate win over Wolves. So, delighted with that. A good run in the FA Cup for Hearts, losing 2-1 to Fulham in the quarterfinals. So, better success in the Cups this time. The league itself, though, isn't going particularly well. So, we will get to the end of Year 4 and see how it's going. Right, so here we are at the end of Year 4. Celtic are up in 8th place again, so good for them. But it is not good for the other Scottish teams. Rangers have came 19th and been relegated to the Championship, and Aberdeen, despite winning the Carabao Cup last year and playing in Europe, have been comfortably relegated with 17 points, 13 points from safety. So only one Scottish team will be in the Premier League for Year 5 unless we got something good from the Championship. We'll start for the bottom of the Championship. Hibs were bottom, they finished on 38 points, they will be relegated to League 1. And with one game left in the season, Wigan Athletic finally got tired of me and sacked me. They were sitting 21st, a point ahead of Motherwell. I got the Motherwell job, and on the last day of the season, Motherwell drew at Forest, Wigan got beat, and Wigan are going down on goal difference. The other Scottish team in the Championship were Hearts, they finished 15th. We had no interest above that. In League 1, great season for Kilmarnock, coming straight back up. They won the league with 95 points, so that's fantastic news. For Killie, they are going back to the Championship. Elsewhere, we had St Johnstone in 10th place, Dundee 15th, and Livingston came bottom, so they will go down to League 2. Let's check League 2 and see if we got any good news from there. Some great news from League 2. Hamilton won the league, they're going straight back up to League 1. The only other Scottish team were St Mirren, they finished in 12th place. Right, our first look into Europe. Aberdeen got there for winning the Carabao Cup, but it didn't go well. They got 3 points in Group K and were eliminated. And they're only 3 points, they bored the shit off of everybody. They had 0-0 draw at Bordeaux, a 0-0 draw at Fiorentina, and a 0-0 draw at home to AZ Alkmaar. So, Aberdeen as well, 7 goals across 6 games. Not exactly thrilling Europe, but at least they were there. In the domestic cup, Celtic got the furthest in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, drawing with Arsenal and going out on penalties. And in the FA Cup, only 2 Scottish teams got to the 5th round. Hearts losing 2-1 at home at Manchester United, Motherwell losing 3-0 at Everton. So that is your lot for year number 4. Right, so here we are at the end of year 5. We've only got one Scottish team left in the Premier League. It is Celtic, and they finished 12th. So they're still reasonably safe from relegation, finishing a mile ahead of Norwich, actually. 23 points. The 3 teams relegated, Norwich, West Brom and Bristol City, went down by a mile. Championship, Rangers came 6th. We will quickly check the playoffs. The playoff final hasn't happened yet, but Rangers were knocked out in the semi-final on penalties. So we'll get back to the rest of the division and see how the rest of the Scottish teams did. Hearts in 8th place, so they weren't far behind. As for the rest, oh no, right. Motherwell 20th, that's not bad. Kilmarnock were relegated back to League 1, and Aberdeen for the 2nd year in a row have came bottom. Bastard. League 1, we've got no interest at the top. Hibs are 10th, St Johnstone in 11th, Dundee 16th. Hamilton relegated to League 2, so disappointing for them. And in League 2, Livingston came 5th. There's no way to check who won the League 2 playoffs, so we'll just have to keep an eye on that next season. St Mirren in 12th, and that is it. Carabao Cup was a disaster. No one got past round 3. We've got Motherwell losing at West Ham 2-1. Celtic losing on penalties to Crystal Palace. And that is it. So a really disappointing season in the Carabao Cup. Better news in the FA Cup, Rangers got to the semi-final, losing 3-1 to Burnley. So that's a good achievement for Rangers. But ultimately, we still only have one team left in the Premier League. we will get on to year number 6. Right, we're here at the end of year 6. Celtic came 15th in the Premier League, 36 points, so sliding a bit. 6 points ahead of Brighton though, so not too bad. They're still in it. 6 years they've been in the Premier League now. I'm hoping that they will stick around, to be honest. If they get relegated, then this experiment is an absolute failure. So unless somebody's going to get promoted, Celtic might be our last hope. So let's check the other divisions. Championship. Rangers came 4th, so we will quickly check the playoffs. And again, they got knocked out in the semi-final, this time by Stoke City. Rest of the division looks like this. Hearts in 9th, so they have been a top half championship team the last couple of years. Elsewhere, we have Motherwell relegated. They sacked me and I ended up at Portsmouth as well. So we've only got 2 teams left in the championship. This is going poorly. We'll check League 1. Great news. Aberdeen have won League 1. They finished on 92 points. So they are going back to the championship. Happy days. Kilmarnock in 3rd place. Missed out on automatic promotion by just a point. And unfortunately we can't check the League 1 playoffs. So we will have to check back on that next season. As for the rest of the division, St Johnstone in 8th place. Dundee 11th. Hibernian relegated to League 2, so that's a disaster. In League 2, Livingston did not win the playoffs, but that doesn't matter. They have been promoted automatically this season. St Mirren, who got relegated 3 years in a row and then hung about in mid-table, have got themselves up to 6th and into a playoff spot. So good for them. They will hopefully get promoted, but again, we can't check it because we're not controlling a team in that division. So, rest of League 2, Hamilton 12th, and that's your lot. So, we'll check the cup competitions and then we'll move on. Bad news for the Scottish teams. The only team that got to round 4 was Kilmarnock. And great performance by Hearts, getting all the way to the semi-final, losing 4-0 to Manchester United. Not a bad effort though. We'll check how they did elsewhere. Knocked out Gillingham in round 6. That's a weird quarter-final. Knocking out Hamilton in a 5th round replay. Brighton in round 4 and Leeds in round 3. So good effort from Hearts. We will move on to year number 7. Right guys, we're at the end of year 7. Celtic came 9th, so they're getting better. 54 points, really good after slowly sliding in the last couple of years. Got to be pleased with that. That's your lot for the Premier League. In the Championship, Rangers have come 3rd. Unfortunately, for the first time, we are not controlling a Championship side. We have Portsmouth in League 1, so we can check if they won the playoffs, but we will get back to you on that at the start of next season. Rest of the division looks like this. Hearts are 11th. So they've kind of settled into mid-table in the Championship. Kilmarnock 19th, Aberdeen did stay up in 20th, and that is your lot for the Championship. In League 1, Dundee came 3rd, which is excellent, so we will check the playoffs quickly. They didn't get there. They lost to Plymouth in the semi-final. Rest of the division looks like this. Motherwell in 19th, St Mirren relegated, St Johnstone relegated, and Livingston relegated. So terrible season for the Scottish teams. League 2, Hamilton have come 2nd, so they've been automatically promoted. There's no Scottish teams in the playoffs. Hibs came 11th. And that is it. Checkatrade Trophy was won by Brentford. They cuffed Motherwell 4-1 in the final, so that's disappointing. Nothing much to write home about in the Carabao Cup. Livingston, though, did get to the 4th round, losing 5-4 on penalties to Barnsley. Aberdeen also got there, but lost 3-1 to Liverpool. FA Cup, 5th round was as far as the Scottish teams got. Aberdeen losing 2-1 at home to Hull City, and that is it. So, that is your lot for year number 7. Right, we're here at the end of year 8. First bit of business is Rangers didn't win the playoffs. The only team in the Premier League is Celtic. They finished 14th, down to just 35 points as well. 3 points clear of relegation. In the Championship, again, Rangers 3rd and in a playoff spot, so we'll have to check on that next season. Rest of the league looks like this. Hearts in 11th. They have fairly settled into the top half without really threatening the playoffs. We have Kilmarnock 20th, Aberdeen 21st, so they have narrowly avoided relegation. Ipswich, Brentford and Walsall have went down instead. In League 1, we've got Dundee in 9th place, Motherwell in 17th, Hamilton in 19th, and that is it. So no one has gone up, no one has gone down. The 3 League 1 teams have stayed there. And St Johnstone have won League 2, although look at how close it was at the top. 2 points separating the top 4. So St Johnstone win the league, well done to them. St Mirren 5th, they will be back in the playoffs. We will check on that next season. Livingston in 10th, Hibs in 13th, and that is it. Nothing to talk about in the Checkatrade Trophy. Dundee got to the area semi-final, and that was it, losing to Portsmouth. Nothing much to speak of in the Carabao Cup. Kilmarnock got to the 4th round. They drew with Leeds and lost on penalties. Celtic drew with Leicester City, also losing on penalties. And in the FA Cup, the only team to get to the last 16 was Celtic, drawing with Everton before losing the replay at home 1-0. So we will get on to year 9 in a moment. Alright, so here we are at the end of year 9. Quick look at the top of the Premier League. We have no interest there, but we'll keep scrolling down. Celtic finished in 12th place, 45 points, so they are guaranteed to be a Premier League side for year 10, which is good news. In the Championship, no such luck. Kilmarnock, though, finished outside a playoff place on goal difference, so that's a massive disappointment. I've no idea where Rangers have ended up. Let's scroll down. We have found them in 17th place, so that is a massively disappointing season for them. 20th Hearts, 21st Aberdeen, so they stayed up by the skin of their teeth. Middlesbrough, Portsmouth and Colchester have been relegated. So we will have 4 Scottish teams in the Championship as it stands, but we'll have a look at League 1 and see what happens there. Alright, so here's League 1. No other Scottish teams will be joining the 4 currently in the Championship. Dundee were the highest finishers in 8th. We have Hamilton in 15th, St Johnstone in 19th staying up, and Motherwell, who I'm back at, have been relegated, so they will spend year 10 in League 2, which is massively disappointing. We'll have a quick look at League 2 though, just in case anybody's came up from there. League 2, we can check the playoffs, but St Mirren finished 5th, so they will be in a playoff place. The rest of the division looks like this: Hibs in 11th, Livingston in 12th, and that is your lot from the Scottish teams. So, as it stands so far, none of the Scottish teams have actually finished in the bottom 2 of League 2, so no one would be going from the Premier League all the way down to the Conference, but it is disappointing that we're going to have a few Scottish teams in League 2 for the final season. So we'll check Cups. Checkatrade Trophy, which we can check because we're controlling the League 1 side, was won by Shrewsbury over Hibs in the final. Hibs have had no luck in this sim whatsoever. In the last sim we did, when we started them in League 2, they started great and then completely collapsed, and they are collapsing again, which is unfortunate. A good run for Dundee, getting all the way to the last 8 and losing 2-1 narrowly at the Emirates to Arsenal. They were our best Scottish performer in the Carabao Cup. And finally, the FA Cup. 5th round was as far as any Scottish team got. Rangers lost 2-1 at Turf Moor at Burnley, and that is your lot. So, unfortunately, we will have no Scottish teams representing in Europe for the final year, but let's get to the final year and see how this all ends up. Right, here we are at the end of year 10, the final year of the sim, and glad to say that Celtic have stuck around in the Premier League for the whole 10 years. They finished 12th in year 10. They have very much established themselves as a mid-table Premier League team, finishing anywhere from 8th to about 14th. No other Scottish interest in the Premier League. We will see the Championship to see if anybody has been promoted. So here we are in the Championship. Rangers finished 6th. We will have to sim forward a bit and check to see how they did in the playoffs. So Cardiff City, Crystal Palace, Leeds United and Rangers were in the playoffs. So I will sim forward and you will see a graphic on your screen now with the playoff winner. Are you happy? Who the fuck knows? Right, Hearts in 8th. We have, Kilmarnock in 19th. Aberdeen relegated in the final season to League 1. Oh shit. We have finished, as it stands right now, with only 4 Scottish teams in the top 2 divisions. We will have to check League 1 to see if anybody was promoted. League 1, we're not going to have to sim forward because there's no Scottish team in the playoffs, and unfortunately no Scottish team got automatically promoted. So let's check the rest of the division. Dundee 11th. Hamilton 19th, St Johnstone relegated by 5 points, and that is your lot for League 1. So again, disappointment for the Scottish teams. Right, in League 2, St Mirren did not win the playoffs last year, but they took full advantage in the final season by coming 2nd and getting promoted fairly comfortably in the end. So congratulations to St Mirren getting promoted in the last year of the sim. Motherwell, the team I'm controlling, came 7th. I know they got to the playoff final and played Exeter, and I'm about to find out who won that game. So hopefully it was Motherwell, so we can get another Scottish team up. The rest of the division looks like this. Livingston in 15th, and Hibs in 22nd. By far the lowest finishing Scottish team so far. Hibs have been a big disappointment in both sims we've done so far. So we'll check the playoff final. Oh, there we go. So Motherwell won 2-0 in the playoff final. They'll go back up to League 1. Happy days. Good stuff. Motherwell are promoted. A nice end to the leagues. We will finish off with the cups. We have absolutely no interest in the Checkatrade Trophy. Livingston got to the area semi-final, got beat by Colchester, and that was your lot for Scottish teams. Carabao Cup, we got 2 teams to the quarterfinals. Dundee with a respectable draw against Man United, losing 5-4 on penalties, and Rangers with a not bad result, losing 1-0 at home to Liverpool. So FA Cup is the last thing we need to check. Could we get a miracle and a Scottish winner? The answer is no. We had some teams get to the last 16. We had Hamilton getting spanked 4-0 by Manchester City, and we had Motherwell drawing with Watford and losing the replay 3-0. So that is your lot from this sim. What I've taken from this is that club value in FIFA 19 plays a massive, massive difference regardless of where you start. We had slightly better finishes in this sim than we did in the last one, but ultimately it wasn't by a huge amount. We finished off with Celtic in the Premier League, which was a positive. We finished off with a few teams in the Championship, which was better than the last time. Last time, all that happened was Rangers winning the Championship and Celtic won the League One playoffs. Everybody else was middling around in League One or League Two. So, and we also got a cup winner as well. Aberdeen won the Carabao Cup and had a wee tour into Europe. But overall, it only made a small difference depending on where they started. So whether we're starting them in the Premier League or whether we're starting them in League Two, there's definitely a difference, but not a massive one. So we will wrap the video up just now. I've got a couple of other ideas for Sims, so we will get to that over the next few weeks. Thank you for watching. I am QMJ. If you're new and you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Give the video a like as well so I know that people are enjoying this content, and I will talk to you sometime.